Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's your fourth video of the day. How dare I? I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things that you love with those that you love to do. I promised you this one earlier. It was supposed to be a dual threat, Coney de Winter, but then new news has come out around Giorgio Scalvini, absolute ratatata of a player, injury-prone player for what it's worth, from the likes of Atalanta, a youngster, but he has major opportunities, major aspirations, and major growth on the cards. 21 years old, not 22 until December of this year. Until recently, it was unclear whether he was going to leave Atalanta. I think Atalanta have now come to terms with the fact that he's going to leave and probably coming to the Premier League. Over the last 2, 3, or 4 days, the links have started to emerge that he is going to probably be the top tier target, if you like, for Newcastle United, who are also looking at Antonio Silva. But as of the last 24 hours, last 12 hours, really, there's been a couple of reports out from Court Offside and now Give Me Sports that are talking about Giorgio Scalvini coming to Tottenham Hotspur. And of course, when that's the case, we start to get a little bit curious, a little bit ratatata tasty in our takes on this sort of player, because he really is a gem of a player. And I wanted to sort of first and foremost walk you through the ins and outs of the story. And then after that, I'm going to bring to you something. I don't think many other people are going to be able to do this, because the stats, the data for him are not really available on FB Refs, where most people go to get their the kind of tidbits of talent, if you like, the takeaways of whether he's good or bad at certain things. Well, you can't do that on FB Refs right now, because FB Refs have minimum minutes played in the last 365 days to be able to appear and to be able to put together a profile. But luckily, through the Y Scout, I've been able to get to you a bit more data from the previous year. He only played 6 games last season, did Giorgio Scalvini, because of a horrendous injury-ravaged year. First of all, he had a cruciate ligament tear in about, I think it was, basically from the start of last season, September of, was it September? Or was it, maybe it was earlier than that, from maybe August of last year. He had a cruciate ligament tear that carried him all the way through. And then he got a massive shoulder injury around Christmas time that basically sort of wrote him off for most of last season as well in the second half. And so he only actually ended up playing about 6 games in Serie A, 1 game in the Champions League and 1 game in the Supercoppa Italiana. And so I think in total last season, he played 371 minutes and 8 games in total. So not a lot to go on. And based on that, you can't also get anything off the FB Refs. But I, of course, have managed to get together a little profile for you. So I want to get to talk to you about that. Before I do, let's get the story, shall we? Let's find out what's happening in the story, because if he really is a player that is going to maybe potentially be part of Tottenham's search for a new centre-back in the world where we don't go after Coney de Winter, in a world where we don't go after Leone, in a world where we don't go after any number of the other talents we've been linked with over the last few weeks, and we do in fact go for someone young, but that's absolute up-and-comer, then we need to know a little bit about him. So let's find out. Let's start with the story, shall we, and get into it. Before we get into it, guys, please do smash the granny out of the like button, smash the Bonnie Blue out of the subscribe button if you haven't already. We love to see it. Hit the notification bell, hit the comment section for another comment or two. Let me know your thoughts on these sort of shorter, bite-sized chunks of content. Here's the story for you guys. And that is starting, this is from Give Me Sport, as I say, it came out a couple of hours ago. Tottenham Hotspur could spring a real surprise in the transfer window this season, according to reports, with a move for Atalanta defender Giorgio Scalvini potentially in the offing, as the club look to strengthen their ranks at the back ahead of a Champions League push. The club finished in a horrific 17th place in the Premier League, their worst ever season in the competition by some distance, but a Europa League win saw them salvage their campaign. Yada, yada, yada. Don't need all the nonsense. The report by Court Offside states that Tottenham are among the clubs showing an interest in Atalanta star Scalvini, despite Newcastle United reportedly making him their top defensive target after becoming joined by other clubs in the race for Crystal Palace captain Mark Gahey. I'm not sure if that's particularly great grammar. Here's a little bit of Scalvini's Serie A tactics from the 23-24 season. This is what I've got to go on as well when we're going to go into a bit more data, but I get a lot more details than this. 33 appearances, which is 7th in the Atalanta squad. 3 assists for their team that year, 9th in the Atalanta squad. Aerials 1 per game, 2.5. best in their squad last season, or the season before last, however you're thinking about it. Clearances per game, 2, second in the season. Interceptions per game, 1.8, which is first in their squad. Match rating, 6.91 out of 10, 7th in their squad. We're going to get into a lot more data than that, I promise you. Sources from Court Offside believe that Scalvini could be available for around 60 million euros this summer, despite the Newcastle report stating that the Italian could cost just 30 million pound after an injury-laden season, as he is one of the most sought-after talents in Europe per the report. Nonetheless, a number of top clubs have been put on red alert, even at the higher price bracket, given Scalvini's young age and potential, having made almost 100 Serie A appearances already by the age of 21. And Tottenham are in the race. The rest of this story, essentially, guys, gets into the usual sort of back and forth regarding Romero going to Atletico Madrid, Radu Dragusin being back up. He's also injured as well. And obviously we have to bake in a little bit of the context here. This is a guy that is clearly had a horrendous year of injuries, cruciate, followed by a shoulder injury that kept him out for the majority of last season. Let me drop away from this for a second, come back to full screen Shawnee. I hope you don't mind. Listen, what I'm going to do right now, I just want to show you what I'm talking about with regards his statistics, just so you can quickly have a look at, just so I'm not making it up. So you know I'm not making it up. Let's have a quick look to make sure that you can all see that this is the tale of his last couple of years. 6 games in the Serie A, 1 game in the Champions League, 1 in the Supercoppa, and then as you can see, this was his Champions League exploits last season. Didn't really play at all. I think he got 35 minutes against Barcelona. This was the Super Cup. Didn't play. Serie A, as you can see, from August the 19th all the way through. Cruciate ligament tear. It obviously must have happened the season before, to be entirely honest, for him to have been over that by November. And then he had a couple of games, shoulder injury on the bench, and then he played for 4 more games, and then the shoulder injury recurred and just basically wrote off his season. So haven't seen much of him last year, but the year before he was talk of the town, major potential. And what I want to do now, you're going to have to excuse me because I'm going to be reading off of my notes here a little bit, but I do have, I've done a lot of work on this guy on Y Scout, and so I'm going to sort of walk you through it, right? So obviously this guy, centre back, right-sided, right-footed centre back. He's 6'4", absolute baller, absolute monster. Plays off the right, can play off the left-hand side. Defensively, here's his sort of playing style and attributes. Modern, ball-playing centre-back is what I've written here, with exceptional versatility and maturity for his age. Key strengths include defensive awareness. He reads the game, in my opinion, like a seasoned veteran. He excels in positioning. His anticipation to be able to cut things out, similar to Coney de Winter. We spoke about this on the last video. Coney de Winter's ability to kind of anticipate what's going on, where to go because of his ability to play in that 6, sniff out the threats. I think this guy's got the same thing, but he's a couple of years younger, couple of years less experienced, but has these things instinctual in his DNA. Really, really like him. He got 2 interceptions per game in the 24-25 season, right? Even though he only played 8 games, 2 interceptions per game is a little bit of a telling point regarding that sort of style of his game. He knows how to cut things out and just reduce the risk. Ball playing ability is the next thing I've got here. Comfortable with both feet. As I said, can play on the right, can play off the left. He's a right footer, but he's fine. He's ambipedal, I guess you'd call it. Maybe he just leans to the right. A little bit like, I don't know, Donald Trump or something. Scalvini boasts an 83% pass accuracy is what I've got here. 100% long ball accuracy in the limited appearances from last season. We're going to go in a minute to more detailed stats from 2023-24. He wins 75% though of his aerial duels in the last 12 months. When he has participated 75%, 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. Every time the ball gets lofted in the air, he wins it. Again, this to me screams a common theme here. All of the people that we're looking at right now, whether it's DMs, whether it's centre-backs, all of these links, if there's truth to it, especially from Italy, you think there's got to be some truth with the whole Paratici vibe thing. I think that part of this kind of DNA of what we're looking for in potentially the next phase of Tottenham's ecosystem under a Thomas Frank era is set pieces. I think we're going to be wildly improved in the set piece space next year. And I think that's what we're looking for across the park. Maybe on that basis, by the way, maybe there's a reason there to think that maybe Richalison isn't going to leave. There's been rumors that we're okay with him leaving, but Thomas Frank wants to see him. I think Thomas Frank sees those margins, those percentage points that we talk about all the time. How do you get the difference between a win and a loss can be momentary. How do you win those little duels? Massive areas for improvement in the set pieces. Ange Postecoglou didn't take it seriously. I think the boys from Brentford that are coming in to sort us out are going to take it very seriously. So let's really hope that we're going to be screaming from the rooftop after a few corners at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next year. Versatility. So this guy is the next thing about him, right? Capable of slotting into a defensive midfield role as well. This is the thing we're seeing. Same thing with De Winter. Can slot into that 6 role. Scalvini's composure under pressure and tactical intelligence allows him to adapt to various systems. 3-4-3, i.e. back 3, or a back 4, 4-2-3-1. Perfect for a Thomas Frank adaptable system. I've also got that he's resilient. From what I can see from my notes here, he's resilient. He's pacey. He's strong. He does brilliantly in the recovery runs. And look, I think the major concern, obviously, is his injury track record, right? Injury recovery. His ACL injury completely ruined his season. And then he got a huge shoulder injury that has also spoilt the second half of that season. And so I think we have to kind of, bake that in because we know what Tottenham Hotspur's medical team are like. We know that there's problematic occurrences that are probably going to rear their head over this season until they fix that stuff up. But so that's probably the biggest issue for me. But in terms of his abilities, in terms of his playing style, I absolutely love it. This is just to give you some insights from the 2023-24 season over a slightly longer period here. We're looking at. In the 2023-2024 data, his stats, 57 interceptions, 1.98 per 90. That's the 96th percentile, top 4% for interceptions in the 23-24 season against the top 5 leagues. In terms of progressive passes, really good on the ball. 4.5 progressive passes per 90, 87th percentile in the top 5 leagues. Absolutely insane. Right? His ability to break the lines, for me, his forward passes, exceptional. Really, really good for someone so young. Aligning him with ball-playing defenders. When I first wrote this down, I said John Stones. Who's this guy remind me of? John Stones. And I think that's really just a reason to be optimistic that guy can come into our system and do probably more of the Christian Romero thing than Coney De Winter could. Probably going to cost a little bit more money, but we shall see. Aerial duels won, 69% success rate in the previous year, 75% success rate this season, although on a very small sample size. Last season, 69% success rate, which puts him in the 85th percentile, top 15%. Tackles, 51 tackles last season, 1.77 per 90, 59% of them were won. That puts him in the top 10 or 15 percentile. Absolutely insane. Clearances, he's in the 75th percentile. Pass accuracy, 83% pass accuracy across small, medium, and long passes in the 23, 24, and 2025 data, which puts him in the top 20% again across all 5 leagues and the top 15% in Italy. Shot creating actions, by the way. This is something that he's doing either in the 6 or in the other areas of the game. I had him in the top 20 percentile for 1.2 shot creating actions per 90 as a centre-back. It's really interesting statistic. Again, this guy can carry the ball forward, can progress it, can thread it through the eye of a needle at 21 years old, guys. 21 years old. Now, this might not sound sensational, but it really is. And it's such a brilliant platform to build on. If you can get him past his injury issues, the problem is, of course, at a cruciate, if he goes once, it might go again. For me, this guy has it all. I think from looking at the various data around, he has a 75% likelihood of ending up at Newcastle. Newcastle clearly want to go in a certain direction. They went after Mark Gahey like Tottenham did, got turned down as well like Tottenham did. Either Gahey is looking to go in the direction of Liverpool or staying at Palace and seeing out the season, then going on a free. Newcastle are also looking at Antonio Silva of Benfica fame. Absolutely amazing player as well, by the way. Love that guy. If he comes to the Premier League, it would be a really good move for Newcastle United. We haven't been linked with him, so I'm not going to talk about him on this show. But for me, Giorgio Scalvini, for me, is someone that we need to be taking seriously. If this guy comes in, I just want to ask you a question. Are you okay getting hold of the greatest potential talent out of the Italian Serie A since Alessandro Bastoni, since a Christian Romero? That sort of stuff. This is what we're looking at here. Ball player, as I say, John Stones. If we're okay with that, or we're excited by that, you have to be okay with the fact that he is recovering and had a horrible year. Is Daniel Levy going to pull the trigger on something like that? Is he going to get stuck into a bidding war, not knowing whether it's completely over or otherwise? As I say, my notes initially didn't talk about his shoulder injury, so I've only found out the shoulder injury today that comes up in the transfer market data, and I don't know, essentially what the details of that is. You would hope that a shoulder injury can't be that serious that it would be reoccurring as a footballer, but maybe if he falls over, if he gets stuck into an aerial duel and it goes again, if it pops, if it's a dislocation thing, that can keep you out, and that can happen quite a lot. Let's hope that's not a problem. This, for me, though, is obviously the biggest concern, because if that goes once, is it likely to go again? But if it doesn't, if you can get him back fully fit and the asking price is correct, somewhere between 25 to 30 million or 50 million, for me, at the bottom end, I think you're going to invoke a bit of a bidding war. At the top end, be interesting to see whether Newcastle United are still free and clear of their FFP hang-ups and their restrictions, if they are going to want to get someone like James Trafford in as the goalkeeper, someone like Anthony Elanga that they're trying to get for 55, 60 million. Can they really go again? They probably do have the money, but their FFP problems are not going away. They're not participating in the same mechanics, the engineering that Chelsea do. I'm sure they will at some point. And I actually tip my hat to them for not doing what they probably could do, because they do have owners that could turn that needle if they wanted to. It must be frustrating for Newcastle fans. But Scalvini, for me, is an absolute baller, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute baller. I would love him. I want to know whether you would take him with the risk that the injuries are possibly reoccurring. Let me know your thoughts. I apologize I can't get any of the graphics up on the screen, because there's no graphics that you can see via FB refs. They only show you the last 365 days, and that's really not useful, because I've only played 8 games. But Scalvini, for me, is an absolute monster. Let's get him if we can. As long as you're okay, I'm okay. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And by the way, if you are interested in the podcast format of all these shows, they are available on podcast, on Apple, on Amazon, on Spotify too. Links in the description. Like, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye-bye.